Good evening again. I'd like to call the committee of the whole for the Village of Cary for April 5th, 2022 to order with roll call, please.
Collier?
Here.
Dudek?
Here.
McAlpine?
Here.
Weinhammer? Here. Cavelli? Here. Walrath?
Here.
Thank you. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have just none? Okay. All right, now moving to the public comments where the public is invited to make an issue-oriented comment on any matter of public concern not otherwise on the agenda. I have nobody signed in, so we'll get right to business at hand, a discussion regarding parking restrictions on Industrial Drive.
Thank you, Mayor. The committee may recall back in December of last year, we had a discussion about the on-street parking for Industrial Drive that was tied to a few things. One was the access for emergency vehicles, and as well as the ability for the, especially the police department and fire department, especially with the new municipal center opening up late last year. So subsequent to the passing of the ordinance that did formalize the parking restrictions from Carroll-Algonquin Road to Georgetown Drive, we did receive some feedback from a few business owners along the corridor there in the industrial park. And we agreed to bring this discussion back to the committee of the whole for one more review before we either, one, install the signs per the code amendment that was approved on December 21st, or if the committee so wishes, we could make an amendment to that code and alter that parking restriction based on the discussion this evening. Next slide. So as you may recall, particularly the stretch from Carroll-Algonquin Road to Reuben Lane, or just east of Reuben Lane, is the industrial park portion of the roadway. The image before you on the screen just shows the locations of all the different driveways for the different businesses on Industrial Drive, as well as the loading docks that are of the configuration that face directly onto the road and do typically require the trucks to back into the loading dock from the roadway itself. And as noted in the staff report and as we discussed at the previous meetings, of note and of concern are two things. The first factor is something that the Fire Protection District did highlight for us, is that they do have concerns with access for the emergency vehicles if cars are parked on both sides of the roadway. As you can see, the road is about 36 feet wide, which on most conditions can allow travel for at least one-way traffic, and sometimes two if it goes particularly slowly and they're mindful of the clearances of the mirrors. But if a large truck or multiple large trucks are parked on the roadway, and if a vehicle is going at speed, particularly like a fire engine or an ambulance responding to an emergency, it is a little bit tighter for that traffic to occur with cars parked on both sides. And also of note is that if a truck, as you can see in the image here, just depicting the reverse movements for backing into a loading dock, if cars are parked on one side of the road, there does appear to be room and clearance for those trucks to make those maneuvers. But if there is a vehicle either staged or parked on the opposite side, there could be some conflicts that would require those vehicles to move before that truck can make that maneuver into those docks. So as we presented previously, there were three options at hand. The first one was to at the time, originally, the code actually did already have parking restricted on both sides of the road. It just, for some reason, wasn't signed. So that was one of the other reasons we brought it back to the committee to reaffirm what the direction was. Two, we could amend the code to allow parking on the south side of the street and only restrict parking on the north side. Or three, we can, as was previously approved on December 21st, we could maintain parking restrictions on both sides of the street, but continue to allow stopping and standing, which would be the staging and the loading, unloading that typically does occur on this working street for the industrial park. So with that, I can entertain any questions you might have, and we do request direction from the committee on if you'd like us to Again, number 3, maintain what was previously approved, or consider an amendment to that before we install the signage.
Can I ask why is this, what was the concern that someone brought it back to us? I mean, because that's obviously what we did start to work with, and then some other companies that maybe did not get in touch when they first were reached out to ask about that. So what is their concern and what are they looking for?
I believe one of the business owners is here today, and
Perhaps I'd love to hear, I would love to hear from them.
Provide your feedback. Appreciate it.
So, I guess,
just-
sorry, I know.
Yeah, just state your name and address,
I
yeah,
know the
yeah,
deal.
yeah.
I'm from Illinois Motors. I also represent Illinois Lift, which is probably the majority of the concern with everybody here. The biggest concern is, I'm a working store. I work from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Saturday. My only day off is on Sunday. So I came back Tuesday, actually, from lunch. There were 8 semis and 2 enclosed trucks unloading. I had to use some of my dock area and some of Illinois Lift dock area to unload 8 trucks, okay? Restricting an 80-foot truck on one side of the street, I don't know where he's gonna turn around, A, to park on the south side or the north side, whatever they consider. Those cars that are parked on the left-hand side right over there, those are my guys. And I've told them, ever since we had that meeting, don't park over there anymore. So I've told everybody, park on the back side or park in the parking lot. Nobody's allowed to park on the street in front of the store at 675 anymore. I already told them that. I keep one semi out front just because of, I know you guys all heard, I got robbed. So that one semi sits at 675 to block the entrance. I have 2 more sit at 711 and I have 3 more that sit at 645 to block entrances so nobody could get in and out, to try to limit the robberies that I had in the past, the last 2 of them. So my concern is, I told these guys, my guys right over here, nobody's allowed to park over there. That's on me. So if they park over there, you give me the ticket. I already told them, nobody's allowed to park over there. They're either in the parking lot, 7-Eleven, or 645. Limited truck parked over there on the right side. Sometimes trucks take anywhere from 2 to 3 hours to unload. If it's an RGM, which is a low boy, they have to disconnect. Car has to, whatever they're loading or unloading, has to get picked up, brought over. Some of those equipment go 2 to 3 miles an hour. So I'm a working individual. I work every single day. I've been to an industrial drive in Bensonville, Addison. I grew up in Elmhurst. Every industrial drive does not have parking restrictions on a parking street. I mean, this is a working street. We work under every day. Mayor told me when I had 7-Eleven, he's like, do me a favor. Only thing I want you do not block the street for police and for ambulance. I said, fine. I never block the street. If it takes a semi 2, 3, 5 minutes to back up, unfortunately, I can't control that. It's not the easiest. I told them, you back up that one picture. I don't know. Let me see. One more. Maybe it's one more, though. Maybe it's forward. No, it's forward. Forward.
With the turning
one more.
movements.
That one. So dock cars coming into the dock, into Mike's dock over there at Illinois Lift, nobody's allowed to park in front of those 3 trees on the left side of the street. Because if there's a car or a truck parked over there, you cannot back in a truck over there. So sometimes the guys will back in, or sometimes they'll pull in because Mike's got a little bit of a turnaround inside there. The guys at DOD, they know better. Nobody parks on that side of the street. I have guys park either in front of Illinois Lift or in front of my store loading and unloading. If I had the room, I would put them in front of my store, in front of 645 at 7-Eleven, whatever the case is. Sometimes on the weekends when nobody's here, I put them at DOD or next door, and I get them off the street. But unfortunately, this parking restriction, I don't think it's gonna work. I'll be honest. They said, well, we'll do like as long as they're in the truck. Some of these guys get out, they have to go check in with Illinois Lift, they have to check in with Illinois Motors. They're not in the car. Somebody drives by and sees them, they're not in the car, they're gonna write them a ticket. At the end of the day, I'm gonna have to pay the ticket because that transporter will never come back to me again. And like I said, well, I don't know where I'm gonna move an 80-foot truck and trailer and turn around and tell them you can't park on this side of the street, you can park on that side of the street. And God forbid I'm not there, if Mike's not there, and they unload and he's on the wrong side of the street, I don't understand where we're going with this. It wasn't a problem before until everything was moved over here. I don't block the street. you could get 4 cars through there, 100%. If there's a truck, you'll get 3 cars through there, so.
I understand you. Believe me, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you voicing your opinion on these things. But we're trying to look at the greater picture here. I mean, your business has grown substantially. We're proud that you're doing that. You're continuing to grow with us. But with that growth comes other restrictions that we have to look at. This was supposed to be no parking from the get-go, but it was never enforced. So this is what was brought to us. We have had complaints from existing businesses that are on there with the amount of parking that's on the street and the semis that are blocking while they're trying to back in. I get that. And I'm like, well, that's just part of being in an industrial
It's an
park.
industrial park.
I get
It's
it.
a working street.
I understand. But also, our largest industrial park, which is Cary Point, we don't allow parking there either. And there never seems to be an issue. We do, I think that we turned a blind eye to some people that are parked over there, quickly, and, they're moving things around. We understand that. We want to work with you. We don't want to be the bad guys here. But we have to look at the big picture here. We have concerns that were brought to our attention by our fire protection district, and we have to take these things seriously. So we're looking at ways that we could help you be able to operate your business without any type of issues from us. We want to be a partner. We want to work with you, but we're trying to look for what's the best solution for your problem. One of the things that it's been recommended to us that we keep it the same way, but I think that the rest of the board may be inclined to allow some restricted parking, so that we can accommodate this. Eric, can you go back to that one slide? There's a lot of twists and turns on this road that you forget about. And we have a problem with speeders, as I see our deputy back there, Winkleman. He'll attest that we have a lot of speeding, and that's an issue for us too. So we're trying to enforce this. We've got the blind spots with the semis taking up the street. So we're just trying to get some information. We sent out a survey when we first were going to do this. We didn't get really any response that I'm aware of. Did we get
A few. We got a few.
But no one had any red flags or any type of real concern. So I'm glad that you came to voice your opinion. These are some things that I think the board needs to take into consideration if we're going to make some changes for here. And we want to make sure that you feel like you're heard and that we're doing what's right for the village as well as for your business. So I'd like to get some feedback from our board, what they think, and how we could rectify this situation.
I guess I would start with a question for Director Morimoto and for the Chief Finland. Are there ways to set parameters or at least to have some broad guidelines on what stopping and standing entails? To your point, very specific, the person who pulls up in the vehicle to deliver something has to go in and check in first. That vehicle's sitting there still running. Clearly, it's not parked. That, to me, is more of a common sense scenario. Some of these things do take a long time to either get scheduled, get unloaded. I get it. If there's activity, it makes sense. But from the enforcement standpoint or from the street, I would say if we had some sort of idea on what your opinion was as to what constitutes stopping and standing versus parking.
Okay, I'll start. I would say that if the vehicle's attended, that there's somebody there that can move it, that's not stopping or standing, that it's attended. I can tell you that given the way that these buildings are configured, maybe they're not set back as far as we would like to have had them set back. They probably wouldn't be approved now in the same configuration as they were approved then, because that would certainly be addressed in some type of planning as it relates to, just like the gentleman said, it's an industrial area, and I am very familiar with industrial areas because I grew up in Elk Grove Village. So in that regard, I don't think that there's anyone on our department that is going to be out there waiting for someone to get out of a truck and issue a citation. And it would more likely be if there was some issues related to obstruction or if there was a safety issue that we had to address. Because our police officers do use they look at the totality of the situation and use discretion in regards to spirit of the law versus the letter of the law. I'm very comfortable in saying that they're not going to be out there looking at that, And the other part of this equation that we didn't address is the type of traffic, you know, we have pedestrians going down that street because there's no sidewalks, and sometimes there's people running or walking down that street, and, you know, bicycles and things of that nature, more likely on the Saturday than it would be during the week, but we do have that issue to address as well in that area, and it will be rectified, because I believe that we're looking at sidewalks on the south side of the roadway eventually. Does that answer your question, Trustee Walworth?
It does, and what I would infer from that as far as action would be, it would probably have to be pretty egregious of somebody not being at any of the buildings and not being around the vehicle, be there before we would ever look at taking any kind of an action. If the vehicle's there and running, and you can easily locate the person either in the business or in the vehicle, around the vehicle itself, to say, what's the situation, you know, then village staff or police can say, all right, this is going to be 2 hours because this is the type of thing that's going on. I don't think there's any concern, it wouldn't be any concern from my side of that vehicle being there for that time frame, particularly if it can be moved in an emergency situation.
And that's where I would say it was attended, you know, that it could be moved in that regard.
Thank you, Chief.
Couldn't we word this different then, instead of it saying no parking, or it could say no parking, but trucks are loading, loading and unloading only?
100%. There's got to be a better, because when I get somebody from out of town that's not familiar with the area, that is unloading a truck and sees no parking, the first questions out of his mouth is going to be like, well, it says I can't park over there and I can't turn around. I understand. He's got a great point. There has to be some kind of better wording. The whole idea of this, the only reason why I'm here is because I work all day long. And for me, I have enough shit going on. The last thing I want to do is some trucker calling me, asking me, you can't park over here or this or that. I got better things to do. So that's what I'm saying. This is just it's gonna cause commotion. I already know it. Like I said, when I came back, there's no way I could fit 8 trucks at 80 feet long down Industrial Drive on one side of the street. It was physically impossible. And 2, you know, trucks unloading 2 cars enclosed. That's, you know, every bit of 60, 65 feet. There's not enough sidewalk, you know, not enough street that I wouldn't block somebody's street to do it. And I had to use some of my docks to get them out of there. It took every bit of it till about 3:30 to get everything going. It's a lot of work.
Any other comments from the board?
So can it say no parking except for loading and unloading?
No unattended vehicles?
Well, it's not even if they're inside or out, like you said, he's lenient with that, but I think the main
They
problem
have
was
to go and check in.
when your
They have to grab
employee,
a check.
not just your employees.
Or just loading zone?
Right, loading zone, no parking, but I think the issue, some of the issues when people were parking their cars there.
My guys were.
Right.
I'll first
Right,
admit
so
it, my
that's-
guys are assholes.
you're not the
100%, I
only
told
ones,
them
but-
that. I said, you guys got me in trouble,
Right.
like you got yourself in trouble.
Right.
And Brian's
But
laughing
you could
because he
still
knows I
word
get
it as
myself in trouble.
no parking, loading, and unloading.
Right.
That would be my choice.
Loading zone only.
Loading
Right.
zone?
It's just gotta be reworded. I'm telling you, the whole, we're from here, so we get it 100%. The guys out of town, they don't get it. But I have a lot of guys that come in 2-3 times a week, so they'll understand and get it. You know what I mean? Like, you can park on that side of the street, you can load and unload on that side of the street. That's it. That's all I tell them. You know what I mean? It's just gotta be worded. The whole no parking on both sides of the street is not gonna fly. It's not. I got too much stuff going on, and now with 7-Eleven opening up, and I'm knocking down 645 tomorrow, I got a lot of shit on my plate. And this is the last thing I need about parking.
I understand. You know, maybe we could put together some scenarios. We could talk
I
with
agree. Thank you.
If I could
Director Morimoto.
add to, when Coleman in the Park was in operation, there was parking on both sides of the street because of that business, and that's no longer going to be in effect, so that addresses some of the
They
issues.
parked in my parking lot. They parked across the street. I never
It's-
said anything. Fair less. People are having fun, having a good time.
But the other part of this equation is, I think that, you know, if there's a safety issue, we're going to address it, and we don't have a extensive traffic crash history on that roadway that I can recall. I don't believe that there was 15 crashes in how many years? 5 years, so 5, or 3 a year. So it's not that, and I don't believe that any of them were injury accidents, or very few of them were. Yeah, and I know that a lot of them are near like Cary, Algonquin, and Industrial. They
That's
were
excluding
in,
intersection.
yeah. So,
And we'll definitely look at what we can do to maybe clarify the wording, but we are a bit limited with regards to the type of signage we can utilize. It does have to be compliant with the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, or the MUTCD, and it also does have to mirror what either the Illinois Vehicle Code and the statutes there, or our ordinance, in order to be enforceable. So there are those parameters where we can't get too creative with the wording, or if it becomes too non-standard, it becomes a little bit of an issue from an enforcement and adjudication standpoint, and as well as just from the uniformity of what people are used to seeing on the streets. But I'll see if there are any other options that would maybe better clarify. I do believe we have the same, as we think we've conveyed, we have the same goals as Illinois Motors and all the businesses. It is a working roadway, but we just need to make sure that it is safe and that the message is clear for all motorists. And I do truly appreciate that you're working with your staff to kind of coach them and say, this is where you should park and should not park. Even
I don't
better.
think you know me. There's no coaching involved. I just tell them what to do. It is what it is.
And we love that.
No rules. I make the rules.
Yes.
That's what I tell them.
Like I said, we love that and we appreciate that. As for the other motorists and other drivers that, aren't part of your staff, that don't get that coaching or that direction.
I flat out
So
tell people when they pull up like that one roadway like we were talking about, if you park over there, that's why we put the rocks over there, because they destroyed the front on DOD.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, we have to put something there just to block them, because they would drive up on the grass and then ruin all the lawn in front of DOD, and I wasn't having it, because I have to pay for it and fix it. So, do we fix that issue? And nobody's allowed to park.
So some option of the standing and stopping on both sides.
Yeah.
Right.
So if the committee's okay with this, we'll bring it back to staff. We'll come up with some plans. We'll keep you in the loop.
Yeah.
I
I know.
greatly appreciate you bringing this to our attention.
I appreciate it, guys. I don't want to be a pain in the ass, but at the same time, I want to try to figure this out.
I wish they were all as easy as you are.
Yeah. You caught me on a good day. It was a good day today.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Phil.
Thank you.
Moving on, a discussion regarding the redevelopment of village-owned property on Second Street and Route 14. Director Simmons, you have this?
Just for discussion purposes this evening, wanted to bring back to the board proposal for development of a property at the corner of Second Street and Route 14. We have a developer is present this evening and kind of give an overview of his project. That's proposal for the site. Just a brief overview. Ridgefield Homes, they've been developing within the village for a few years. They're currently developing the Walnut Ridge subdivision, or completing that subdivision, and then are also recently purchased 5 lots in the interest of Cimarron subdivision from the village as well, and be constructing additional single-family homes in that area. They've expressed interest in this property and have a concept that Mr. Dula can provide a brief overview for this evening, looking to potentially develop up to 10 townhome units on the property. The property is, for information, is zoned for B3R, which is a mixed hybrid district. It does allow both commercial and residential uses, so the project is currently proposed, does comply with the village's zoning regulations for the property, as far as setbacks, density, and parking requirements. But due to the nature of the district, it would require still some zoning entitlements to be approved for a conditional use permit for the single-family attached project, and also approval as a planned unit development. There is guidance in the recently adopted downtown strategic plan that is specifically towards this site, is identified as an opportunity site for development within the downtown district. And one of the concepts that was in that plan did incorporate the type of project that Mr. Dula is presenting. So with that, I'd be happy to invite Mr. Dula up to provide additional information, his proposal, the project, and his interest in developing the site. And then we can have additional discussion as well from staff and board level, any questions you may have.
Thank you, Brian. Mr. Dooley, would you like to come up to the podium, please?
Jay Dula, 903 Lakewood Drive in Barrington. I'm the president of Ridgefield Homes. First of all, I want to congratulate everybody on the beautiful Village Hall. It's spectacular, so congratulations on that. Just by way of introduction, I've been involved in the home building business for 35 years. I was the original president of the Chicago division at D.R. Horton, who's currently finishing up the townhomes here in the village. Also had my own company called Ridgefield Homes. That in both cases, we were building between 300 and 350 homes a year. Unfortunately, when 2008 came around, there was a lot of changes in the home building business. So as Brian indicated, we've finishing up the Walnut Ridge subdivision. Actually, just dug the last foundation today there, and have purchased the 5 lots. We've been in for a permit to attach the individual homes now to the sanitary sewer system, which we need to do before we can start construction. We've expressed some interest in this parcel on Second Street and Main Street. I brought a lot of detailed information because I've been at village board meetings that all of a sudden none of the projector stuff works. So I was struggling to that. So
We've had that issue in this building, yeah.
I figured I'd bring it anyways, but it seems like we have adequate information up here. So as Brian indicated, the site's, I'm sure you're well aware of it, on Second Street and Main Street. It's 35 miles an hour in front. We have spoke to Brian about what some of the requirements may be. First of all, there's a carriage walk that adjoins Route 14 there. My engineer had indicated that IDOT typically wouldn't allow us really to move the sidewalk. That was the IDOT sidewalk. So we had indicated that we would eliminate the curb depressions that are there that were for the 3 existing homes and repair any of that additional sidewalk that was destroyed or not functioning properly. But as we planned the site, we felt that a new sidewalk that would adjoin Second Street and ultimately tie back into the existing sidewalk that runs along Northwest Highway would be a nice way of creating a really nice looking amenity for this little 10-unit community right there off of Second. So we added in a landscape buffer area that we would, that's about 20 feet, 25 feet, I think it is, in overall. It would be a little bit of a berm area. We would obviously landscape that, which we would develop the plans later on in the process that we would, with stuff that obviously wouldn't get impacted from the maintenance of Main Street. Brian, I think that there's some photography that I had, here's a little closer up. So what the proposal again was to provide the 10 townhome units, which are the traditional courtyard type homes, 2-car garage located in the rear of the building, have a private driveway that would access those individual driveways to each individual townhome. So you not only have 2-car parking inside of the townhome space building itself, but at least 2 cars that you could fit in that of driveway approach on all units. So just that in alone, you'd have four parking units per townhome units, as well as what potentially could be on the private driveway. We also have proposed adding a fence, 6-foot privacy fence, just to kind of enclose the little 10-lot development, and then also in the front of the units, we propose a 4-foot wrought iron looking fence, which each individual gate would access each individual unit. So it kind of create that nice row home effect. So let's look at the architecture really quick. So I know Brian has indicated we need to accommodate the architectural styling that was previously approved. There's a photo of the Cary Bank building. And now this isn't the exact architecture, but this is just kind of an example of what we would propose to do as we moved along the process. But again, try to bring in some of that same column element, bring in the stone. I understand that Brian has told me that it's a required siding that is the cement board type siding, which is obviously more expensive from that standpoint. But this was just some typical elevations of some other townhome buildings that I thought would, again, would fit. And again, that's that courtyard type style product with the entry, add grade entry that you would come in off of the sidewalks. I didn't have a picture of the rear of the units, but that would be where the two-car garage would be, as well as a deck that would come off of that second level. The typical first level of these units, you have the two-car garageway, you have a family room, it could be an in-home office, a variety of different things that's on that first level. You'd walk up your flight of stairs, and that second level, you would have all your main living level, your kitchen, dining, the living room area, and then the third floor would be the master bedroom and either one or two bedroom configurations, depending on what a buyer would choose. So that's kind of a little bit of a description of the product. I'm a real estate broker as well, and happened to print out some of the pretty much, I could distribute this if necessary, but I printed out just basically trying to get a feel for, sales prices of multifamily in the area, and I printed out what's closed in the Cary, Oakwood Hills, Trout Valley area in the last 6 months, and searched between 250 to 500,000. There's been a total of 30 homes that have closed, and basically with an average sales price of 288,951 is what the MLS data indicates. There's been, the highest I think was, one was at 340. There's been, a few units that have been priced between the 300 to 330 range, but majority of them were in that sweet spot of 280 to 290. What we would propose here is like a $300,000 to $325,000 price point is where I believe that we need to be at, just from a perspective of meeting the market. Obviously, as everybody's heard, the cost of construction has just gone crazy over the last 2 years with the pandemic and the supply chain issues, the cost of lumber on some of the houses that we're continuing to build in different parts of the city has tripled from what our costs were. We were at $25,000 for our lumber pack, and now we're paying 65 to 70. So and it doesn't seem to stop. It just continues to go up, whether it's masonry or steel or windows. And we have houses that we pre-order the appliances 6+ months in advance of the closing, and 90% of the time we're still closing the house without one or two of the appliances. It seems like it's taken so long. But so that's how we came up with the price point that I've established in terms of where I thought we needed to be, as well as what, based on my offer that I had submitted to the village in terms of the purchase of the property. Is there anything I'm missing, Brian, that I didn't discuss? I think that's what I had to talk about. Any questions that I could answer at all?
Anybody have any comments? Trustee Weinhammer?
I'm just looking at the pictures. Is there an option, and I know it costs more, to have more brick on it, or?
Well, again, this was just preliminary architectural plans that I had, so I probably would be bringing in something with a little bit more stone, which would be the look. I mean, again, I think that, I think there's only one other building that I saw besides the Cary Bank building that was built in accordance with those newer standards that were established, and again, I think I would, again, it's a cost concept, so it's how much can you put on to be able to reach the market. And that's typically what builders do, is we all look at what's our total cost, where's the market at, what can we pay for land, to make sure whether or not a deal even makes sense to move forward with, so.
Well, and I'm going to kind of piggyback on that. I'll just be honest. I don't think there's any character, the ones you're showing us. I mean, I like the look more, if it almost looks more like a row house where they're separate. This looks to me like a big Marriott development or something, someone goes and rents, for a vacation. I would just love to see a little bit more character in it. How you can achieve that, whether it's product or some of the design. I think that the concept of putting that where you're looking to put it is fantastic. I think that makes a nice entryway as you're coming into our town.
Right.
And I love the idea of the black fence. I'm not thinking that you're gonna build something that's in downtown Palatine where they're, 550 to 700,000.
Right.
I understand that it's not gonna be a brownstone like that, but I would love to see some of the aesthetics, just a little bit more character in it.
Sure.
With staying with, I get with your price point, and I think that you are looking at a good price point there. You should be able to sell those very quickly, and that the market will have a good demand for that. But I just love to see a little bit more done with the design.
Okay. Again, this was just
I know you're
some
just starting,
existing product
I'm just
that-
sharing with you my thoughts.
I appreciate that, thank you.
So there's some concern with just it being flat.
Flat,
Yeah, I
Maybe
mean, that's just
step
me.
up
I
down
like
a
a
little
little bit,
bit
that has a little more character or something to it.
Okay.
Well, I think that what we've learned since doing this, that it's better for us to let you know what our expectations are, what we think that the community demands right now.
Sure.
And I think it saves you a lot of time, saves us a lot of time, so that we're just going to knock it out and to say, these are some of the comments that we'd like to see. And it seems to have worked in the past. I think the other building that was built to this style was the Cambridge building. Was that part of that on First Street? Because I remember we had some issues back in 2010 or 11 when they tore down that other building and to conform to this, so that it's a darker building, but it still conforms to this style of a building. But I echo what the trustees have said about just a little bit more character and a little more charm. That's one of the nicer things you're going to see when you first come into our downtown.
Sure, I get it.
We're going to be spending several $1 million downtown in the next couple of years, so we really want to make this a part of our downtown.
Okay.
Any other comments?
No, I'll add to that too, just from the code perspective, the B3R district is one of the few districts that we have that has design guidelines built into the ordinance. So there are regulations, as Mr. Dula mentioned, as far as materials and kind of design, the look of the building, which this generally applies, and the bank is a good example of how it was designed with the types of windows and the, divided light within the windows. Is the kind of create that turn of the century style architecture. So there are, different elements that still could be incorporated into, still meet those design guidelines as well.
To be clear, this is not something you've built, this is just a product?
No, this was just some photography of a project MI Homes actually was building, so
Okay.
I just took some pictures of it just to incorporate into what some elements of design that could be incorporated into it.
Have you built a product like this before?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Where would we know, anywhere around here?
No, I've built it in North Aurora, I've built it, it's a common, this row home product is being built by a lot of different builders in a lot of different areas. I mean, you go to Lake Zurich and see, NVR Ryan is building it. You can go to Palatine and see where Lexington has built some of it. MI Homes is built, that's where this is. This is in the Rolling Meadows, Palatine area. So there's a lot of builders that build this exact same product type. You just change the elevations. We have 100 townhomes. I also am the general contracting for another home building company that we're designing the same building type for an existing project that we own in Lindenhurst, where there's 100 townhomes of this same building type. So, unfortunately, obviously, the foundation still has to be square, or rectangular. But as you said, you can add some additional elements to the front elevation to achieve some better elements of design. Yeah.
And in your experience, are Because for me, one of the challenges that I have with the project is that the units seem very narrow. So is 20 feet like the standard for a $300,000 townhome?
Yeah, in all, there's some of them that are even narrower. So, I mean, these are 21 or some that I've even seen at, 19 to 20, foot wide. But yeah, that's pretty standard. You're still getting 1,850 square feet of livable space, not including the garage. So you're still getting a good, livable area inside the units themselves. But again, it's about cost versus what the market value is, and I think that's still one of the driving factors is being able to obtain that market value that that it is. So
And your
that's,
plan would be for them to all be the same in terms of square footage? You wouldn't have one unit that might be smaller, or?
no, they would all be the same. There'd be two different floor plans to choose from, basically, but the buildings structurally would be the same.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Trustee Cavelli, anything?
I'm not a big fan of the outside of this at all. I agree with what Trustee McAlpine said, just a little bit more character. I initially, when we had talked about this, I really like how our downtown is coming together, and like Mayor Koenig said, we're putting a lot of money into it, and I think with the train station, I'd like to even see some of those elements into the design too, to kind of pull it all together.
Okay.
Trustee Collier, anything? Agreed. All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session.
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh. In the meeting? Okay, yeah, we'll be adjourning at the end. Executive session to discussing setting the sale price of village property on Second Street and Route 14, and executive session discussing regarding settling the sales price for village property at 441 West Main Street. We will adjourn into executive chambers there. Yeah, and since there's no action after this, we'll adjourn from here, from our executive meeting.
What?
Oh, yeah, good night, yeah, we're done, where you're concerned.